Family's podcast. This is Remii Perez, stand-up comedian. I don't know what he does for a day job, but he just got home from work and hit him up. We've kind of mutually known each other since 2012 when he was in the Navy, but he got out to pursue his comedy career. I believe you're down now in San Diego.
Correct.
All right. So my Instagram stalking was correct.
Yes.
But stand-up comedian, part-time day job dude. Found him and kind of gave me a little bit of inspiration. And we were just talking about stand-up not being scary. So go ahead and start off, man. Like I wanted to record this just so that we could have it on tape.
Yeah. So we were just mentioning that I asked him when have you gotten on stage yet? He said he was too scared so far.
Yes.
And I'm trying to talk him down, but also talk him up in the sense that for any person who's thinking about trying stand-up comedy, if you're thinking about it, you should definitely do it for 5 different reasons. One, it gives you a better sense of appreciation. Two, you get to, it's like not a characteristic, but the ability to mold conversation, kind of direct conversation, everyday conversation, mundane conversation, intense, important conversation, deep thoughts, or even, just helping you figure out your own feelings. I think it helps a lot with that. There's one of the chiefs in the Navy told me, if you don't know how to explain what you mean, you don't really know what you mean. And so I think with comedy, it's really a really good tool to not just get your point of view across, but to make sure it's being translated for the person across from you. Yeah. So you learn their language. What are the words that mean the most to them? What are words that they find funny? What are situations that they find funny? And so if you can figure out what makes them laugh, you can figure out essentially their basic characteristics. And
sure.
And that's the fun part. That's the interesting. And it's like the Matrix. Once you open it up, you can't go back.
Yeah,
because you realize there is a structure, there is a pattern, there is a cadence.
For sure.
It's everything.
100%.
But why it's not scary is if you've ever told a story once, like, we went to the pool and we ran into Jim, and then some kid pooped in the pool, and then now you got a funny story that you can't wait to tell everybody, right? And so you go to your next event or next gathering, and then you tell the exact same story, but you've learned to like shorten this one part and expand in on another part because you realize the value in it. Like, where was everyone tuning out? Where did I get the laughs the first time? And that's all it is. That's all comedy is right there in a nutshell.
Yeah. My biggest thing is like that kind of holds me back is I got 4 kids. So it's kind of hard for me to leave my wife with the 4 kids to go out late at night and just go to the club and do it because, and I don't know if it was the same thing when you were here in 2000, whatever, but there's like a big comedy scene in all the breweries that popped up, right? And so I'm trying to reach out to like a couple of the local comics that are up here, but it's just so hard for me personally just to like leave my family late at night when it's like bedtime to go out and do this. And that's like my biggest hang up. But I kind of relate stand up to getting up in front of duty section and doing duty section training. It's not so much like being in front of people, but it's like having the premise and the story and being able to articulate it the way that I want it to. And I just like, I don't know, man, but it's different.
It's really, you know what it is? It's the fear of the unknown. You don't know how they're going to react because I always think of this scenario. If you had to get up on a stage in front of like, say, 5,000 people, and they're like, you're going to have to rehearse these lines because we're going to do a play for everybody, you would get a little intimidated. But if they handed you a card and said, this is your only line, and it's just a 1-word thing, you just have to say your word after somebody else's 1 word. And it's like, oh, that's so easy. Yeah. Like you're no longer thinking you're going to mess it up. Now you're just hoping that, whoever wrote this got the right message, because I don't want to say something that's offensive on stage or whatever, But
I mean,
yeah, that's the basics of it, And as for your family problem, like, dude, leave the family, dog. Come on, you're the first to leave it for the podcast. Really show that dedication,
Yeah, I know. You just gotta step off that deep end. But
that's right.
Yeah, back to being like, how did you get into comedy? Like, was it something that you were drawn to? Because I know, like, I don't know the whole backstory, but I know you got out of the Navy to pursue this. Like, what made you want to give up everything to go and do this?
Well, that's okay. So there's 2 parts to that. The first one is what got me into comedy. Just I was homeschooled as a kid, so I spent a lot of time in the house, and you
Okay.
find ways to entertain yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And Comedy Central was just constantly running clips and stuff. So that was like my introduction to stand up comedy. I remember
All
the
right.
first album that I heard was it's one of Seinfeld's first albums. I remember he had a joke about Halloween mask and how they always cut your tongue with that
Yeah.
little slit.
Mhm.
And it was like, as a kid, I was relating to it, and I was like, I love hearing this kind of conversation. I love humor, so I watched all the stand up comedy, Premium Blend, and everything like that. Listening to comics like Liam Lynch, Pablo Francisco, all these great names. And uh, I think it was either 2000. I can't remember what year it was. 2000. I got there 2012 in Washington. I want to say it was maybe 2014 or 2015. I'm pretty sure it's 2015 where I saw one stand-up comedy special on Netflix, and I thought to myself, I'm not better than most of the people that I've seen perform, but I'm definitely better than that guy. And if that guy's making a living off of this, I can
Oh, for sure.
definitely. Now, mind you, I feel like anyone who realistically does comedy in the beginning is realistically delusional. I think you have to maintain
Oh, for
a
sure.
certain level. Your eyes slowly peel back the layers of delusion the more you perform. But yeah, most people get up on stage like, oh, dude, I'm so interesting. Like, I'm gonna have a Netflix special in like maybe a week. I don't know. They're gonna hear
Yeah,
about me,
and you're not, and, like, that's my
and you're
biggest
not.
thing, like, I got 5 mouths to feed at the house, like, I can't go like, I could, like, theoretically, I could go and be a poor comic and just eat rice and beans, but, um,
Yeah.
like
But this day and age with technology, I think this changes it all because you could literally hone your skill in your current area. You don't have to travel anywhere, right? And you
I
can
could,
do
yeah.
stuff with your podcast online. There's so much like you could work out a very similar muscle. Not to say that it 100% translates, but if we're talking stage fright, you'll get over that. If you're talking
Yeah.
coming up with material, you'll find something. And if anything, it'll be more motivating because once you have that thing, that nugget that you feel is gold, you can't wait to tell people.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like I don't and, like, there was we were watching me and my wife were watching this Korean soap drama, and I just, like, wrote this premise out, and we were watching it, and they have this white dude that is on screen, and this Korean dude brings him to a restaurant, right? And the white dude just stabs the food with his fork and eats it. And she was like, "Man, I don't understand chopstick people." And my wife's half Filipino. And so I was like, "Chopstick people?" I was like, "You can't say that. Like, you gotta come up with something different besides just chopstick people, babe." And she was like, "I don't know what to call them." I was like, "Jesus Criminy Chris." I was like,
You were
"Good
just
night,
thinking
lady."
for when you tell the story, huh? You're like,
Yeah.
listen, when I tell this
I was like,
story to
"This is
somebody,
gold. If I could just
inevitably
figure
they're
out a
gonna
way to
think
tell
I need
this,
to.
it would be phenomenal." But I don't know. Um, but yeah. But so, like, getting into comedy, like, what made you like, what was the turning point for you to give up a career in the Navy to go and pursue this?
You know what? I forgot my second point, which was I left the Navy for more reasons than comedy. So I got to, what was it, 9 years active?
Mhm.
And I was about to make that turn of like, hey, you're going to start your next part of your career. So the first 5 years I spent on the ship, and I was on a destroyer out in Virginia. And so those were like 18-hour days all day long.
Yep.
And you spend 80% of the year out to sea. The 20% that you're on shore, you're spending 80% of the day at work. So it was just a really stressful 5 years. And then I finally got to shore duty for 3 years, and I told myself I can't really afford to go back out to sea. Like, not every ship is like that ship, but I'm rolling the dice if I say I'm signing up for another 5.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, so I can't go back out to sea. That was the first thing. Once you touch shore duty, that comfort level of just all that downtime, it's just world changing. And I was recognizing that in the beginning of joining the military, I feel like we kind of passed this bubble of all the people living in our hometowns. We're like, oh, we're doing all these things. We're getting job promotions. We're getting responsibilities that like people 10 years older than us don't typically get at our age,
For sure.
you know? And so you feel a sense of enlightenment, like you're older and like an old soul. You become an old soul in some ways. Uh, and all your friends from back in your hometown, yeah, they're still working the same job and making those small changes or nothing at all. So you feel like you're just, evolving so quickly. But then there's this thing that happens when you're just in the military, you only hang out with military, like you start to forget what civilian life is like and what's important out there.
100%.
And I just remember running into a couple of retired military folk, and I was like, oh, it's like you're really likely gonna have to get another job afterwards.
Oh yeah.
If you want to, increase the value in your life, which most people try to do, or at least get to, whatever the mansion is that most people want, right?
Yeah.
um, and then you have to learn to interact with people. Like it's easy to talk about Navy stuff in the Navy. Like you talk about divisions, you talk about units, you talk about commands, the CEO, the exit. We all pretty much get it. Like life is like a big inside joke with a big old crew.
Oh yeah.
But once you get out of the military, like you got to learn to talk about things. You're gonna always want to talk about the military in some form of capacity, and I think comedy changes that. I think a lot of people don't want a previous identification when it comes to comedy. I think the second you step on stage, you get to present yourself however you want to present yourself. Like
Yeah.
this is all anyone knows about you is your most clever moments or the topics you want to talk about. So you can be anything you want to be, and it's hard to be more than just the military when you're in the military. So it becomes almost like a personality. And and when you go on stage, you don't want people to have any like previous notions of you. If you have tattoos, you don't want them to judge you about your tattoos. um, if you have clothing patterns, you don't like the assumption that they know who you are based off of the specific clothing that you're wearing. Sometimes you do. Sometimes that night you're like, hey, I want you to think this and then
Yeah.
understand I'm exactly what you think. But other
Okay,
nights you're
I
like,
can see that.
yeah, you need to focus on me and the words that I'm saying. Don't focus on anything else. So you kind of try to erase any previous identities. And if somebody can point out that you used to be in the military, you're probably presenting like like you probably still got the shaved hair. I had that for a while.
Yeah.
Um, you're bringing up stories about the military, thinking it's relatable, but forgetting that inside joke world when you're like, okay, so he shows up to the command, and you're like, oh wait, they
Yeah,
don't know
no,
what
that
it is.
yeah.
It's a command unit. And I see it all the time where I've seen a few comics do well from doing from military to regular jokes, but most get hung up on their day job, and it's kind of the first step in comedy. Talk about the things that you know and that you want people to talk about on a regular basis, but they don't typically talk about it. So you're like, ooh, sex, it's so taboo. So
Yeah.
that's
And
like
I
the first
think
one.
that's where like a lot of um things come from, especially for me, is just weird things that people that make it relatable that people don't talk about all the time, especially with having kids, and just all the crazy thing that kids do or say, or words that they put into your mouth, or the way that they understand things, or the way that they do things. Like it's very relatable to me, and I find that funny, and I think that other people would find that relatable. So I mean, that's just me though. So I mean, like I don't know, like
Yeah, I think with relatable topics, I think what is interesting, why comedies. This is my own personal philosophy. Also, mind you, I will say for the record, I am an amateur comic. I must state this for the record. I've been doing it for about 7.5 years. I've got about 5 years experience. I gotta, put that out there. All right,
So
amateur comic.
let's diverge for a second. So explain to the people that are listening the way that comics work, right? So are you still an open micer?
I am still an open micer. I've been on shows where I've gotten paid to be there.
Uh-huh.
Um, so you have different kinds of like. I guess the first one's going to be you'll be performing at a show where they're like, hey, we're going to hand out a tip jar afterwards. Whatever we get, we split. And then there's hey, I have an established $10 or $15 for you.
Yeah.
And then there's like that next level of like doing like official bar show, not bar, but like comedy clubs for a specific spot. Um, and I think that works best if the comics around you don't quite know you, because like if you're performing at these clubs at their open mic, they know you're an open micer. And so if
Yeah.
you ask for like a position there or something like, hey, can I be on that show and can I get some money in return? They're like, you're an open micer. You're doing it for the internship essentially.
Yeah.
Um, so the odds of you ever getting paid, little to none in the beginning. Like I'm not at the payment level yet where you know it's got to be anything major. It's like a, it's
Yeah.
like $10 here,
Don't quit your day
$5 here.
job
Yeah.
type gig.
Yeah. You found more money on the street than you'll make out here. But I have performed in front of, crowds of like 100 plus people. I've hosted multiple nights. I think the biggest person I've opened for was, or actually, you know what? I didn't even open that show. I was just on it. Never mind. Nope. I performed with some people who have been on Comedy Central, and then the majority of the shows are just anything that kind of pops up where they have an extra spot or somebody
Yeah.
cancel their spot essentially.
So
But
from what I've learned, you usually go from like open mic to like kind of like a paid regular to a middle to a headliner, and then you can go wherever you want to from a headliner.
so I don't think it's necessarily like that A to B. Like it
You could
those
skip
things
around.
would
That's like
those things
the
would pan
typical
out.
path that you would take.
Yeah, I would. Okay, so I would say most people don't have. It depends on where you're at. Like, what kind of scene do you have? How big is the scene? How many people do you have that are top performers? How many solid 45-minute acts are there in your local scene? Because
Yeah.
whoever those people are, they're probably going to hover at the top, and um, that's gonna keep a lot of the positions that you can perform at different. So you either have to travel yourself, which is where you're always gonna get more recognition. If you say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I got a tape I can give you. Can you put me on a spot out there?" If you can get like two professionals to vouch for you and say like, "Hey, that person's AJ squared away," you're gonna have to find a connect of sorts, you know. So the odds of getting to that point, it's just about how much you work. Writing is everything, and most people, whatever they think they're writing, they're not writing enough. That's the one thing I tell myself every day is, I'm just not writing enough. I definitely need to write
Yeah.
more. Every comic needs to write more, and they'll never tell you to not write more.
Oh, for sure. Like that
But there,
when I had texted you, I was writing then, and I was like, and you hit me up. I was like, sweet, I got something to do this afternoon. So it was, yeah.
nice. Yeah, writing. I will say there is something to that whole 10,000 hour rule where you're not a real skill master in anything that you haven't put 10,000 hours of work into. And why comedy is good is because you have to learn to interact with people, the crowd, whether it's they're laughing at your jokes, they're not laughing, they're doing a quick laugh, like, huh, but that's it, not the
Yeah.
belly. What? Like, you start to learn to decipher like what kind of material gets those laughs. How do I react and work with it, especially on the negative side, because you're gonna bomb so much more than you're gonna do well. Yeah, like there's always one crowd that laughs real hard at your one joke, and so in your head you think it's that performance level every time. So
Yeah.
then you get in front of this new crowd, and they're like, "We only kind of like it," and then
Yeah.
you get in front of another crowd, and like, "We also only kind of like it." And you're like, "Oh man!" So you thought you had this A winning champion, and now it's like, no, it's just kind of eh. So now
Yeah.
you're kind of coasting through some areas. You might mess up here or there,
Yeah.
so it turns into a bomb more than a coast. And you're like, maybe it's the timing. Okay, I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna do the exact same thing with different timing. You're like, nope, wasn't the timing. You're like, maybe it's the words. What if I switch these two around? Like, nope, wasn't the words. You're like, maybe I'm approaching the subject too harshly at first. Maybe I got to put something a little softer to ease us in there. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what it was. They enjoy this part
It's
more
the
when they get a little
delivery.
warm up. Yeah.
You gotta ease it.
So
You gotta ease it in. You just can't put the whole thing in at once.
yeah, but you're taking in all the variables because you'll go, was it the crowd? Was I the 85th comic they watched perform 3 minutes in a row?
Okay. All right. All right.
Maybe I missed something. Maybe there was an event that happened recently that's kind of hitting everybody close to home. And I didn't even realize the things that I'm saying might be an accidental metaphor,
Yeah. I mean, true.
yeah, there's just so many variables. So you gotta 100% understand why something didn't work, and then so you know what to change about it, and then you gotta do that test run of just, does this work? Does this work?
All right.
Yeah.
So where did you start at? Like, when did you find out that you were funny?
I in my head at the time, I considered myself to be funny. I don't think I'm funny. I think I'm interesting, and I've learned how to say things that are funny. I think there's an aura to people who are really funny. You know,
Okay.
like they just constantly go, they constantly have your cheeks hurting, you know, like they can take anything you say and just warp it. I think I'm interesting though. I think I can steer the conversation to interesting stuff. And I feel like I just reveal more about what the person I'm talking to truly thinks. Like they're getting permission to say their thoughts out loud through
Okay.
how I'm bringing it up. Yeah. So I got started. Well, 2015 was when I thought maybe I'm good enough to get on stage. Not because again I thought I was good, but you know I feel like I got the jokes with my friends. We're constantly you're military, so you're
Mm,
with your friends. You're just
yeah.
always ripping on each other. You know, it's not a very positive community in the sense of direction. Like
Yeah,
it's
no.
not malicious, but it definitely doesn't sound positive.
Yeah, no, it's very yeah, like for the most part, the way that I would explain it is that it would be very degrading to your personality. And that's could and mostly because that's the easiest thing to pick on is somebody that's different or somebody that has a quirk about them. But it's in no way, shape, or form demeaning, which is completely
Yeah.
different. And just to put people out there, like we're not degrade, like we'll degrade each other to a very far extent, but we're not going to demean anybody so that they make them feel bad about themselves. It's all in good fun.
You know what it is? It's in the military, you're closer than regular people. You're with them day and night. You're
Oh
working the
yeah,
same jobs. Um, so you're rooting for them as if like they're literally your brother, you know,
yeah,
because like these are the people that you'll get an apartment with. These are the people that you end up starting families at the same time with. Those kind of situations, you know, your paths go sideways to the country, and maybe you guys might run into each other at another command, you know. So yeah, when these are the people at your weddings and stuff, they really do become like your brother. So it's like what would you rip on your brother for? You know, if you two were
exactly.
going at it.
Yeah.
But you just learn. It's like everyone's learning that that's the thing. So the quicker you realize, hey, we're just all relatives out here, like the quicker you assimilate in the military. Because I feel
Oh, for
like not
sure.
everyone had that kind of friendship back home. You know?
No, yeah, no. There's always that kind of reservedness with, even when I call people back home and you don't see them all the time, so it's not that same closeness that you would have. So I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah.
but
I do remember as a kid, I did like a little bit of Spotlight. Like I remember when like CSI would come on, I would just sing the theme song, the "Who Are We?" that one, and I would sing it with the broom. And I think like if you break down your experiences, I'm just a child receiving attention from my parents, so I'm
mhm,
just like, oh, they like it when I pretend to sing, whatever this is. I like this. This moment is good,
yeah.
you know. So I say a little bit of performance I like. But I don't think I did anything really as a kid that really made me stand out as the funny. But you know what it is? It is a form of like isolation and weirdness. So like me being homeschooled definitely, made it just made me not get attracted to typical situations. I was very much not to say in my comfort zone, but I knew like, hey, peer pressure has nothing to do with me right now. Like I don't fall to those kind of things. So I'm
Yeah, I
okay
have no
being a
peers.
loser. Yeah. So I was like, hey, if I'm playing, Pokemon cards or something, like I'm cool with it until I'm not cool with it. It's
Yeah.
not, hey, everyone here doesn't like the fact that you're a grown little boy playing with Pokemon cards.
It's just you and your dad playing Pokemon cards. They got 3 fire and a Charizard. Dad, what are you gonna do? What's your next move, man?
Yeah. And I'm 20 at the time. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think the people that you'll typically see in comedy are those who um they kind of feel like why not? I feel like if you go through a lot of bad experiences or unfortunate experiences, um, you kind of just get this like out of all the people to tell a weird story, shouldn't I get a shot at it?
Oh, for sure. There's
Our
plenty of
little
people
dog
out
over
there,
here.
and oh, good night. Dog's making a special appearance.
Yeah.
Um, was that a King Cocker Spaniel?
It is a Cavapoo, Cavalier King Charles Poodle mix.
Good night. Well, I mean, the people will be able to see this because it's going on YouTube and Spotify, so they'll be
You're
able
about
to
to
see
get
your
some
dog.
dog points.
Yeah.
Ooh, the internet's gonna love that. Bring back the dog. Do more interviews with that guy with the dog.
Hell yeah. Um, but yeah, no, a lot of people like, and the thing too is a lot of people find those experiences relatable, right? Like
Mhm.
I'll give a shout out to Ryan Sickler, who does the Honeydew podcast, and
Yeah.
his like storytellers like behind the scenes of like what people actually tick and like what's actually happened to them has been just so mind blowing to me. Like all the people that are out there, like a majority of them are comics, and they all have some type of uh detrimental thing that happens to them, or some big significant thing that happens in their life that makes them turn to comedy. And it's
Mhm.
very eye-opening to see. So I mean, you can turn those bads into a positive, and that's just one of the things. Like, you're like, makes you feel like you're not alone while you're out there. It makes it very
Yeah.
relatable. And I think that's like the biggest thing too, is like making it relatable to the things that have gone in your life, because like you're not the only person that's done that or has experienced that type of thing. So I don't know.
Yes. Yes. And that's the other thing is you get to talk about weird experiences, but how you're talking about your unique experience, you're saying that it affected you in a very specific way. That the people, the audience, put their own story. They remember the time they felt that way in a situation. So
Oh yeah.
you're essentially allowing them to live this weird experience because they know how that feeling feels in the moment. So they go, "Oh, if I just lived that weird of a life, that's exactly who I would be because I know that feeling."
100%. Oh yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to comedy. I would have you actually witnessed a few open mics?
I've never gone to an open mic. The only show I went to, Bert Kreischer's show when he came up here to Seattle. My wife took me for my birthday. Um,
Nice.
yeah, no, it was a blast. Jose Trejo opened, and
Dope.
it was just a good experience. And then like I've always been drawn to it, and I don't know if it's just something. Maybe it's just my draw to have an anxiety before doing something that really gets me going. But anything that gives me a lot of anxiety, I usually get drawn towards. And so, like, that nervous feeling, or the heart palpitations, feel like I'm fixing to have a heart
Yeah.
attack, is really what gets me going. So, I mean, like, that's something that like really drew me to it, is standing up in front of a crowd, and to relate that to military life and the things that I used to do, because I'm on shore duty fixing to retire. But being on a ship in front of a duty section and being able to make that entertaining for them so that they can understand the information that I'm giving them and
Yeah.
not like fall asleep. But I've always been that kind of social butterfly and wanted to have that type of attention towards me. And maybe that's just me being self deprecating, of wanting all eyes on me or the spotlight on me. But it's just something that's kind of drawn. I don't know, like how to. I don't know how to explain it.
You know what it is? I thought about this. I don't consider myself to be like a leader, even though I've taken charge of a number of situations. Um, but there's something to when so many people are doing bad around you. You think, "Ah, well, if we're not going to do it right, I might as well be in charge of this because
Oh, for
apparently none of
sure.
you guys could do it."
Yeah.
And I think because of that, like especially after you go to a few open mics, you'll feel the same way. You'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I've got way more better direction than these guys. This
I
is
have
the
no idea if
competition."
I would or not.
I'm telling you, because in every scene, there's always about like 200 amateurs, and there's about, I would say, 50 of them who write. And I think about 20 of them who actually write, and about 10 of them who actually perform like comedies in their future. And
Yeah.
there's probably like two of them that might make it. You know, it's a very small group, but there's like over 150 plus people who are just
So
like
where do you like, perfect world? Where would you want to go?
to perform.
Not so much perform, but like career wise, like would you want to keep your day job, or would you rather be a comedian the rest of your life?
Rather be a comedian the rest of your life because you think about it, you choose your schedule, right? You're in control of where you want to go. It adds on extra things, so like
Theoretically, you're in charge of your schedule.
theoretically, yes.
Theoretically.
We're talking a medium grade. I imagine a medium grade comedian could. choose when they want to go, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they do like half a year of traveling or
So
majority of the
you're a
year.
middle,
Yeah. Um,
not a bottom.
it's always good to be the filling, right?
Like I'm gonna be a power bottom.
Um, I'm trying to think of where would I go?
Like, do you travel outside of San Diego to do comedy?
Not typically, no.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would like I don't know if you travel out like because I know that LA, New York are the meccas for what's there. And I know like a lot of people, Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, um, fuck the names excuse me, but like they started in Boston, right? Um, but
Yes.
in San Diego, like what is the scene in San Diego as far as comedy?
I just realized. So I have performed up in Washington and San Diego. I've also gone to LA for a few
Okay.
things. So if that counts, but that's the same state. So
Well, no, I
not,
mean it does because I mean it's LA is a different
yeah.
I mean,
I didn't want
you live
anyone
in
to think,
California, it's a
oh man,
different
he only
country
stays
if
in
you live
Iowa
in
City.
California.
Yeah, yeah. I've done a little bit of traveling, but I'm like, does that even count? It's only 2 hours away. But
It does to me.
uh, so you were asking, what does the scene look like?
Yeah.
Um, so right now we have about so there's one major mic that happens every night of the week, and it's like later on in the night, somewhere between 7 and 10.
Okay.
Depending on the day, it'll start there. But every night of the week, you get a chance to go up there. Then there's like a few bar mics throughout the week. So like on Monday, if you travel maybe 20 minutes east, you'll get to do like 7 minutes at a bar, right? Then you'll travel like another 40 minutes west, and then you'll be able to do a 5 minute set at another bar. Then you'll go 20 minutes south, and you'll be in downtown, and then you'll do Madhouse, right? So you'll go through like different versions of that. Sometimes it's 40 minutes up, sometimes it's 7 minutes at one place, 5 minutes at another, 3 minutes at another. But there's only about two actual comedy clubs. They have La Jolla Comedy Club, the La Jolla Comedy Store, and then um, they have the American Comedy Company. Those are the other two apart from Madhouse, which are like actual comedy clubs
Yeah.
that do open mics that have a regular scene, like a constant mic going. They just reopened the comedy store open mic for La Jolla, so that one gets a little bit more popular just because the kind of comics that come down from LA just to perform, just to get
Yeah.
an extra 7 minutes of practice, So, but yeah, that's a standard. They have a few. So I think if you're starting out, what you're gonna want to look for is there are a few comics who do their own like once a month show or once a week show. So you might want to start there. Like if you build like a solid like 10 minutes of material, uh,
Mhm.
and it's like good, like okay, solid 10 minutes of laughter. You know what you're doing. They'll probably put you on one of their shows where they're booking like maybe one headliner from LA, um, one feature act from a local, and like maybe two or three kind of mid grade openers. So those shows are more common. I would say like maybe once or twice a week, um, and that's kind of like the first thing that you would be looking forward to doing is one of those kind of shows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I got you on that.
yeah.
So, like, with where you're at now,
Mhm.
where do you see yourself going with the preparation and the practice that you put in?
Um, I
Like,
would
if you had to
say
give yourself a grade.
if I had to give myself a grade, ugh, I would definitely say C- to C+
That's, like, the
right now.
hardest thing.
Yeah, I'm not failing because I'm definitely getting better with the subjects that I want to talk about. I'm getting I'd say smoother with the transition. It's definitely rocky the first month or two with the
Oh, I can imagine.
yeah, but yeah, I would say the next step that I need to or that I would like to see is just having a regular occurrence in the shows because there's a lot of it that's just like you have to be around. A lot of people don't just call and go, "Hey, I was thinking about making a show and I thought you'd
Oh,
be
yeah.
perfect." It's like, "Hey, we just got done doing a show out here. Somebody saw that they liked some of the performers and they're like, hey, we're going to post another show in a month or two. Do you want to be on it? So you just got to always be there most of the time. Like
Mhm.
connections are really a big thing. And then um, I want to start building an online presence. There's something to having a built-in audience when you start going places because
For sure.
realistically, I've seen killers with not as much of an audience presence as they would hope, and they go to these clubs, they're headlining, and like 10 people show up, and that sucks. You're like, yo, this guy's a killer, and he's only got 10 people in the crowd. Like, how did the world not know about his greatness? And it's like
For sure.
you got to build some sort of a following
And
before
then
that
and then
helps.
that leads me to my next question is how do you like your online presence? How do you feel like you could up your followers? Like, do you think it's just more content or do you think it's
Yes,
better
what
content
more
or
content. I only
okay.
have like 70 posts
Oh
on
wow.
Instagram. I think, yeah, I'm constantly deleting stuff, and I've only been thinking about posting stuff like, in a humoristic manner um, to exploit follows within like the past like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Because you every year you kind of seeing that it's more doable with how many people are doing it and
Oh,
posting their
100%.
content, and they're making an easier guideline essentially. Make a video, make sure it has text so people could
Oh,
read
for
it.
sure.
Like these are small things, but if you can pick up on that, then you're thinking, well, if I can do that, I can do what that guy's doing, which is what gets you into comedy in the first place, thinking something is so much easier than it is, and it's not.
Exactly. Exactly.
But no, I think that that's all. Realistically, that's all it is you just have to build a small fan base where, like, so every time you're on a show or every time you're on a mic, there's going to be a new audience member who doesn't know you, right? And you don't have to
Exactly.
do well with 50 people. You just have to do well with one person. And if that person
All right.
later on after the show goes, hey, what's your social media? I want to follow you. Well, now you got one fan, and you're going to build your skill set good enough where it's like it's 2 or 3 people after every show.
Yeah.
And then if you're just having a consistent number of followers who are just looking up your content, they can't wait to see you next year to see what you've upgraded in your act. You know, Before COVID, I started getting in that kind of a rhythm where I was performing regularly on the weekends, and I would be in public places, and people would be like, "You're a funny guy," and I'd be like, "Do I know you?" And oh, I saw your show like 2 days
Yeah.
ago. Oh, okay. Like that, I thought that you were insulting me at first. I had one guy at the gym. He was like doing the take your earbud thing out, and I was like, "Hello," and he's like, "Hey, did you do comedy?" Like, I know that voice. I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, okay. And then he just like walked off. And I
That's
was just
funny.
like he didn't say anything negative or positive.
He's like, "I know your voice from that one joke that you told me where my voice doesn't match my body and I'm dating a white chick."
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, okay, dude, did you like the show? Did you not? You're not gonna give me you just looked for somebody.
Hey,
But
no, like,
yeah,
yeah, no. I think that
it
was
feels it
like
feels good.
yeah, no, that was like one of the funniest things. Like, I think you opened with that with my voice doesn't match my body, and I was like, I
Yeah,
was in stitches because I
yeah.
know you personally like from before, but
Mhm.
it's like it was just fucking hilarious.
Yeah. There are days where I know I don't have to. There's like mind you, I hear my voice way lower than it really is, right? So
Yeah,
if I
it's a lot
listen to
higher.
only when I listen to it do I see what other people see. And I go, "Oh wow, yeah, that is ridiculous." Um but there's something to if anytime you go on stage, there's two things that you generally need to do. One, you don't have to, but this is just a good benefit of the doubt kind of a thing. Like, it really helps you out. um, is if you make fun of yourself,
Oh,
because
for
most of the
sure.
comedies you're making fun of somebody else. But if there's something to, if people don't know you have a good sense of humor, you just think you're God, and you're like,
Oh,
fuck
yeah.
all these people. Like they'll tell you, they'll hold back their laughter. Like, they'll understand what you're saying is funny, but they don't like you as a
Yeah.
person, so they'll hold stuff back. And not every crowd is that crowd. A lot of people, there's certain crowds where the second you walk on stage, they're just like, prove it, prove that you're funny. Be a funny person. Don't just do material, dog. I want to see you interact with everyone. I want to see
Yeah.
you interact with this energy we're giving you right now. Like, like they make you work for it. Other crowds you walk in, they're just like say anything that's like in cadence with the joke and we'll laugh.
Yeah.
So it just depends. But yeah, the goal is just make a few fans every time and then just get better at making those fans. So right now I'm learning more to speak truthfully versus kind of play it as a character of sorts. I think that's if you can do that on stage, if you can just be yourself,
Yeah.
figuring out how to be yourself, even if you know something is funny and it works this way. It's like, but is that how you talk? Is that how you present things in real
Exactly.
life? Like at some point,
Like how much embellishment do you actually want to put on this joke?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and the concepts too. It's easy to figure out what people respond to. It's easy to just go, "Oh, I saw a comic do a bit like this. I can do something very similar."
Exactly.
It's hard to figure out something that's original that you can make not just interesting, but it has to be, captivating almost like, or I would say original in the sense that, oh, I've never heard any of these words or thoughts put together before.
Yeah.
But
I mean, then you go back to the originality of it. And I mean, I relate it to back to tattoos, like how many tattoos are actually original in what they actually do.
they're exactly
But
like tattoos. That is
like
such a good analogy.
like everybody has a joke about everything, right? Like there's so many
Yeah,
comics that are out there, but there's so many people that have tattoos. Like what makes you original about it? So
yeah, yeah. And you know what the first part, the very first part about doing stand-up comedy is it's going to be referred to as your voice, but like I think that's like the last notch, just to put your voice on it. There's like this machine, this box you got to create where you take a premise, you put it in the box, and then out comes the joke with all the
mm,
punchlines, the
yeah,
tags in it, you know. But learning how to make this thing into that machine, that's what you're doing the first
yeah,
like 2 to 5 years. It's just figuring out, how do I get a premise? How do I make a punchline? How do I follow it up with a tag? You'd be surprised how many people when they start, they'll they'll have a really good premise that's humorous in nature, right? So if you present it, it makes you go, that's ironic,
yeah.
but it's not laugh out loud funny. And so, like when
How
you're
do you
new,
turn it
you
into a
thought
laugh?
just merely mentioning it
Yeah,
was going to make somebody laugh, and you forget you need tags to follow it up, like explain your idea, paint the picture. You just brought up a fun, like, wouldn't it be funny if, and
yeah,
that's it. That's all you had. So
mm,
that would be the first step, is for if you want to know what it's going to be like uh starting out and giving 2 cents for every new person in the comedy scene. That's the thing you want to learn, is how to get your punchlines in, how to get your tags in, but don't just present a premise
yeah.
and then think that they're going to run away with it.
So who do you look up to right now?
In the comedy scene or in just life, or
Well, no, like, well, I mean, both. Like, let's go comedy scene first. Like, if you had to, like, who do you draw inspiration from, or the way that they deliver jokes? Who's your inspiration for that? Like, who's somebody that you would go onto Netflix and actually watch? Well, I mean, because not really Netflix, but who would you go
uh,
out? Who would you pay money to a ticket for to go and watch?
yeah,
And then, like, in life,
I
who's
got a
your
few.
inspiration?
Um, comics like Michelle Wolf, like she writes so much. Like if you see how long she stays on a premise, and it's like she squeezes the juices, she takes the joke this way, she brings it back, she takes it this way, she brings it back, she takes it this way. Like it's a beautiful skill.
Mhm.
And yeah, she just writes so much. There's something too, because like the majority of comics are gonna have like a good, chunks here. Like I present the topic, and then what if it went vice versa?
Yeah.
It's got two-part, but she just goes in like six different directions with just one premise, and that's very impressive to me. She really inspired me to write one of my first like decent sized bits. So I know she's a big influence. Bill Burr for sure. Um, his stance in life, like I'm the opposite of Bill Burr. I'm like a super spaz. I get freaked out by everything. And so like if we're yin and yang, like that's the energy. I need to be around people like that to
Yeah.
to be like, shut up, it's gonna be fine. like I can murder a bear, but I have to be convinced. Like I need somebody to go, no, seriously, you could do it. Just run out there. Without that, I'm just gonna die. But yeah, so it's that solid, serious, like quit the bullshit. Don't be extra energy. That's really dope from him. Um, Patrice O'Neill, he's like an alien in concepts. Like there's like, oh no, that's a funny person who learned like they were always that. Like not to say any of the other ones weren't funny, but
Yeah,
just like that's who you model. That's the one fish that's swimming in the pond, and all the other fish have to compete. Like if you're not as big as this fish, you're not the biggest fish, you know.
yeah, for sure.
And so like that energy of just like being real and getting people to laugh at something that they don't want to laugh at, like seeing like Patrice O'Neill, people like Andrew Schultz, like that that you bring something up, they don't want to laugh at it, you keep going with your description, and then they just lose their mind in laughter.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the good one. When people don't want to show that they're laughing at something, like they're covering up their face, they're like, I don't want people to think that I'm a bad person because I'm laughing at what you.
That like I always find that the funniest, like the people that don't want to laugh, but they are laughing just because they don't want to be judged by other people around them. But like I find this freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is a good feeling. It's a very great feeling.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? The other good thing is, even if you're not the kind of person, not you specifically, but the world, if you're not the kind of person who wants to pursue a career in comedy, I would say it definitely teaches you how to laugh at like hard situations,
Mm,
and
for
because
sure.
like you start figuring out the irony in something extra quick. You start telling a funny narrative. You're already thinking about how you're going to make this into, whether you're talking, just telling the story of your real life happening at like a party or something, or if you're thinking about, is this going to be a bit on stage?
Yeah.
Because it's probably going to be both. If you're doing open mics, it's going to be both.
Oh, for sure. And then one last thing.
Mhm.
Um, who do you think like who's your class? Like give a shout out to your class and then where can we find you at?
Um, so I started in 2015. So
Hmm.
whatever that class period is, um,
Like who are
it's
your
been
peers now?
uh, well, it's different because I'm only in technically one scene. Like Washington, whoever's there now probably doesn't even remember who I am.
Yeah.
So there's no real. It's the year you graduate, but not like I don't know all the peers, you know. And truth be told, the people that perform at my level might not also be the same year group. They might have had more experience, but
Yeah.
we're still performing the same level, and the same vice versa. Some of them are like a year in, and they just hit the ground running. They knew to write, they knew to live the life, like all of it. Just because their life, like how much time would you have if you didn't have four kids? You know,
Oh, well, I'd have so much time.
so much time. So it's
Yeah.
like that difference where it's like, yeah, if I
Yeah.
had so much time, you know how much more of the same work I could
Oh,
get
for
done.
sure.
Yeah,
Like just this podcast alone. Like I have this podcast and another podcast and that takes up all my time.
yeah,
So it's like it's ridiculous.
yeah. And that's the other thing. That's the time management. You gotta learn it. You gotta learn it if you're gonna be happy and have that nice balance of like your extreme chill and your extreme highs, like getting a slight adrenaline rush. Like yeah,
Yeah.
these are dope options. Social media, smirk worthy Remy. That's gonna be on Instagram and TikTok.
All right. So just Instagram, TikTok. That's all you got. So where are you
Yeah.
gonna be at this weekend?
This weekend, I'm staying home. I'm scrubbing my entire database of jokes.
Mm.
There's some old ones in there that don't need to be there. I need to start typing in some new ones, making sure I have a file because I lose paper sometimes.
All right, but so final question. For the
Mhm.
people that are in San Diego, where can we find you at?
You can see me on any given night at the Madhouse Comedy Club on a Tuesday. Occasional weekends at the American Comedy Company. Um, on a what is it? Also on a Tuesday at the Comedy Store in La Jolla. There's a couple of bars around. um, yeah, if you're in San Diego, hit me up and I'll make sure I can get a fan somewhere.
All right. So
Your Uber driver.
but yeah, so we'll put this out. Um as always, you can find us at Two Dummies on Instagram. That has a link tree to everything. Go follow Smirkworthy Remy on Instagram. Hit him up in the DMs. I'm sure his girlfriend won't mind you sliding into his DMs as long as it's comedy
Your tickets and
related.
tickets only.
But no, man, I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, I know you weren't doing anything, but I really appreciate you taking the time
This
out
was
of your
fun.
day to come and talk to me. Um,
Yeah, I enjoyed this. Like I said, as you just witnessed, I can rant for a couple of minutes without air. Um, yeah, I definitely enjoyed this. Anytime you need some more information, or if you want to dive in on some topics, you let me know.
oh,
You
I
let me
got
know.
plenty of topics. Don't even get me started on topics. Uh, but yeah, no. So definitely up and coming right here. Just make sure you go like, subscribe, and follow to everything Remii Perez related. He's got a gorgeous smile. Look at those, all those white teeth. Um, but yeah, so once again, two dummies at a microphone,
We did it.
Instagram, Smirkworthy Remy on Instagram. Go like, subscribe, and follow. Buy a ticket. Get on his. Just give him $5, dude. Who cares? Just see him on the street and just give him $5.
Yeah, we can Venmo.
But anyway,
Yeah.
help him pay for his dog food. But anyways, we'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it, and we'll catch y'all later. All right, man.
Take it easy.